Welcome to the 5S training. Today we're going to go through the 5S training, and then you're going to work with your coach to practice 5S in your workspace. So without further delay, let's jump in. I like to start the training off by asking a few questions and having you reflect upon your answers. What do you find frustrating about your workplace? How much of your time is spent looking for tools or items throughout your day? How often do you feel that you don't have enough time in the day to finish all your tasks? Take a moment and reflect upon your answers. There are many benefits to 5S, but here's some key ones we want to share with you. So 5S helps increase morale, safety, and team communication. It also makes people's jobs easier through organization and effectiveness. 5S makes expectations visible, which makes it easier for people to understand and achieve. The results of 5S is that problems become more visible. So what is 5S? 5S is the methodical approach of removing waste by allowing team members to organize and maintain their workplace in the safest and most effective manner. This could be both the electronic workspace or the physical workspace. So where did the number 5 and S come from? Well, it was coined from the Japanese approach for workplace organization. See, all their steps started with S, so when it was translated over into English, they made sure that all the steps start with S as well. We have sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Now, some organizations that have a high attention to safety like ours decided to add safety, but safety is not an additional step. What it is it's integrated into each step as part of the conversation. 5S method it's supposed to be done in a phased approach. Each step builds on the next. It's a continuous process. It's not a once and done methodology. It helps to understand that waste exists everywhere, no matter where you work. You want to remove the waste from our processes. The only way to remove it is to find it, but we can't find it if it's buried under a bunch of clutter and chaos. You'll find that waste is usually buried under more waste. So here is a picture from the Department of Transportation Fleet Services. This is the area before they started sorting. Can you tell how much work is waiting to be done? Can you tell if anything's missing? How would it feel to work in this workplace? Now here's the same space after the sorting. How much has changed? How much waste do you think they remove? Let's look back. How do you think it would feel to work in this workplace? Now with this training, you were provided a handout, Assessing Levels of 5S. This document is intended to be a guide, not a scorecard. It's not get 5 out of 5 as fast as you can. It's to help you along your journey, to guide you to your next steps. So when you start looking at an area, your team can grab this paper, look, okay, where are we currently at? Where do we want to go next? What plan do we need to make to be able to achieve that target condition? This tool can also be used as a way to reflect upon the progress your team has made. You celebrate your wins. Look where we were and look where we are now. You want to keep in mind with this tool that the levels are not equally weighted. What I mean by that is going from a level 1 to 2 takes some effort and some resources, but it's pretty easy for most teams. On the other hand, getting from a level 4 to 5, it takes more resources and the return on investment isn't as great. Safety. Doing everything you can to ensure that everybody goes home in the same condition that they arrived at work. See, it is everybody's responsibility to make safety part of our regular observation in our workplace. It's up to us to keep each other safe. So at each step in this process, make sure you have a discussion about safety. So the first step is sort. Separate the unnecessary from the necessary. Sounds simple enough, but when you start to think about it, in our shared workspaces, something that might be unnecessary for me might be very necessary for you. So this is an opportunity for the team to have discussions. Now look at the picture here on the right. If I said, hey, could you please go sort that shelves for me? How would it feel? Many people tell me it would feel overwhelming. So what we recommend is when you are sorting an area, you remove all the items from the area, perhaps you put them in the middle of the room or on a table, and then you sort them into piles. We have the necessary pile, we have the unnecessary pile, and then we have a third, unknown. We're not really sure about these things. Here in vehicle maintenance, we designate an area that we call the orange tag area to house the unknown items until we can make a determination. The orange tag item is a place for things that we don't really know we need or not. So your team will decide where the location of the orange tag area should be, and it's important that it's visible to everybody. And the way the area works is if you have an item, you put a tag on it. You put who put it there, initials perhaps, the date and time, and the team will set up some criteria for how long an item will stay in the orange tag area. For example, like 2 weeks. The team will make sure to make it clear what will happen to the items if they're left in there past 2 weeks. For example, it's going to go to surplus. Now, one of the benefits of the orange tag area is sometimes it's difficult for people to let go of things, but they don't need them anymore. This allows them to place them into the area, gives them opportunity to slowly let go. There's one important rule for the orange tag area, is that nobody can take anything out without having a specific reason and usage for the item. They can't just say, hey, oh, I need this, I might need this, so I'm going to take it. They have to actually give a reason what the task is going to be used for that. The owner of the areas need to be responsible for auditing the orange tag area. And after you 5S the area, the orange tag area is used to put things that appear in your area that don't belong. So during the sorting stage, it's really important to include all your team members that use that space. Because what it does is it allows everybody to have ownership over the workplace and have a say in how it's going to be organized. Teams should have conversations about what criteria they're going to use for sorting. So let's use an example. So this is a criteria that a team set up. They decided to use frequency, how often they use things to determine where they're going to put it. So here they had high, average, and low usage. In this criteria, the frequency of how often you used it determined where it was going to be stored. For example, a low usage item was going to be stored at a distance because it wasn't a big impact to have to walk all over there to pick it up every once in a while. Versus a high frequency item was going to be kept close to the person where the work is being done. And also remember during this conversation about criteria to actually have the conversation about safety as well. The next step is set in order, a place for everything and everything in its place. It should be easy for anybody to know where something goes back to. And it should also be very obvious when something is missing. When you set in order, you should create visual indicators to indicate where something belongs. So an example of a visual indicator might be bike lanes. So in a bike lane, you might have a picture of a white bike, maybe the word bike in there and these really clearly defined lines of where the area is. There might be signage up that says this is a bike lane. These are all examples of indicators, and you can use combinations of pictures, colors, and words. So on this slide here, we have an example of a shadow board. So this picture here shows a shadow board. It's where you create a space for your tools and you outline that tool. So when the tool's on top of it, you can't see the shadow, but when the tool is missing, you can see the outline of the tool. Now you'll notice on the shadow board, there's a yellow line that runs through the shadows. So if the tool is there, it interrupts the line. If the tool is missing, the line is continuous. And also notice in this that the drawers below are labeled. There are many different types of visual indicators. You'll need to determine which one works best for your team. As you set things in order, don't forget to take safety into account, people's ability to access things. For example, if you had a really tall person on the team and they had to bend down a bunch, that wouldn't be good. And the same could be said if someone is shorter and they have to stretch and reach for things. So make sure that everybody has equal access to the tools and that doesn't cause any injuries. Now let's look at some examples. So this is an example from the Virginia Mason Center where they set in order their medical carts beforehand. Here's another example from the recorder's office where they set and order their files in the same order no matter what workstation they're at. The third step is shine, cleaning as a form of inspection. This step is really about sustaining the first two steps of sorting and setting in order, and maintaining the way the team designed the workspace. Your team will create a schedule on how often you're going to clean. It should be documented. Some teams, do it daily, others do it weekly. It's really up to your team. And they also need to document who's responsible for completing the cleaning. When people are cleaning, they'll be also inspecting. They're looking for things that are missing, broken, or something new has crept into the area and needs to be moved to the orange tag area. This is also an opportunity to look for safety issues, spilled grease, something sticking on the walkway. We recommend you create a checklist that people can initial. That way you can monitor how successful your schedule is. You'll find that if you've included your team members in the first two steps, they're more likely to volunteer to help maintain the space. The fourth step is standardize, creating a standard agreement which allows for accountability. The standard agreement could be a written document of sequence of events, or it could be a picture with descriptions on it. The standard needs to be kept in the workplace so it's very clear and easy to understand what are the standards and help hold everybody accountable to those standards. This is also a good opportunity to include safety information in those standards. By having the standards clearly displayed, it allows your teams to easily understand what is expected and what does success look like. The fifth step is sustain, maintaining standards through training, empowerment, commitment, and discipline. Now, this is the hardest step for teams. I've seen teams work hard on 5S, but then they weren't able to sustain it and it started slipping back and they had to do the work again. With sustaining, leaderships are going to do periodic audits to prevent slippage. They're going to go there, they're going to try to identify, something new added that we need to make a new visual indicator. Are there gaps in people's understanding? For example, do we hire a bunch of new people and we need to make it more clear what the expectations are? If it's starting to slip, you need to fix it and understand why it happened in the first place to prevent it from happening again. Again, the owners of the orange tag area, they need to be auditing the orange tag area to make sure things don't stay past the due date. So we use a Kazien newspaper to track our activities for 5S. So for example here, you might be in the sorting stage and you would list out, we're going to sort this area and it's located here, and this is who's going to do it, and this is where we're at in our process, and this is when it's due, and here's some notes, so that you can communicate to your team what's going on, where we're at, and where we're heading towards. As with any tool and continuous improvement toolbox, you should always be thinking about improving the process. We recommend the plan, do, check, act cycle, but you really can use any improvement cycle. This is just the simplest one. It's about ensuring that the things that we're doing aren't just because we've always done it that way. This is really about ensuring that we're doing them the best possible way. The ultimate goal is to always have exactly what is needed when someone needs it. Thank you for spending time reviewing the contents of this training. Now you're ready to work with your coach to pick an area to work on. We suggest that you pick an area that's small so that we can slowly go through each step to reinforce your learning. Thank you.